Alright, we are in 7.5. Open up your flipbook and we're going to start right up here. Our first definition says it's the ratio of the lengths of two sides in a right triangle. So if I'm taking two sides and I'm comparing them, setting them in a ratio, we say this is called a trigonometric ratio. Trigonometric ratio. Try and pronounce that. Trigonometric ratio. It's a ratio of lengths of two sides in a right triangle. So if I say, let's find tangent of A, tangent over there is opposite over adjacent, because usually I abbreviate it. Opposite over adjacent. So if I say tangent of A, that means I'm starting at A. So I always put a little dot here, I put a little man here, so that I remember, I'm like, what am I dealing with? If I'm at A, what is the hypotenuse? We always know what the hypotenuse is. This is our hypotenuse. That never changes, right? But if I stand at A, I have a side that's opposite from it, and I have a side that's adjacent to it. What's adjacent mean? Next to. Adjacent means you're next to it. So if I'm adjacent to A, this is my adjacent side, and this over here would be my opposite side. Opposite of A and adjacent to A. So in this case, the opposite side is labeled as BC, and the adjacent side is CA or AC. So here's the first thing. If you don't have your graphing calculator, you're going to need it. The key thing we need to remember, or we're going to get different answers, is we need to have our calculator in degree mode. So, no, make a little note here. Degree mode, your calculator has to be in degree mode. And how do we check it? I turn my calculator on. See this button that says mode? If I want to put it in degree mode, I'm going to go to mode. And I arrow down, and I arrow over to degree and push enter so that it's black and it's highlighted and it's turned on. Make sure that yours is highlighted, degree. So one more time, if I push, see how it says quit, I can go second and then the mode button, because that's like second quit to get the blue. If you push mode, arrow down, arrow over, there's your degree, and push enter to turn it on. Okay, so now if I go second mode, some people push clear, it takes you back to the home screen. So the first thing I'm going to say is let's find tangent of S and tangent of R. We're going to write them as a fraction and as a decimal. We're not going to go to 4 places. The tangent of S, if I say let's find tangent of S, that means I'm going to stand at S. And it's beneficial if you write in pencil because you can erase it and switch things around. No matter what, across from the right angle, this is our hypotenuse. That doesn't change. Tangent of S, tangent we set up here is opposite over adjacent. So what's opposite of S? This side is opposite, and then this would be our adjacent side because it's next to it. This should be 48, this should be 14, and this should be 50. I forgot to put those numbers on there. So, if I say let's find tangent of S, S, we have opposite over adjacent. The opposite side is labeled as 14. The adjacent side is 48. So next to tangent of S, we say tangent of S equals 14 over 48. But Ms. Roop, why are we doing this? Who cares? This S right here is an angle. S is an angle. So I'm going to set this up so that I can solve for angle S. Because here's what happens. I have this 90-degree angle, but do I know either of these other ones? No. So how am I going to find those other angles? Without using what we call trig. We can use trig to solve for an angle measure. In order to do this, I need to use tangent inverse to find an angle. We use tangent inverse to find an angle. So S is an angle, and we use tangent inverse to find an angle. So this is what it looks like. We're going to say tangent inverse of 14 divided by 48, and that's going to tell me my S. It's going to tell me angle S. So what does this look like when we type it in our calculator? Here's tangent, the -1, I go second, the blue button, and then tangent. Type in your 14 divided by 48, close your parenthesis. We get 16.3 if we round it. How do I round it? If I want to round to this first decimal place, is the next number 5 or higher? Yes, so it rounds up and it's 16.3. So on our paper we say S equals 16.3 because it's S, it's degrees, it's an angle measure. So I could put that in my triangle right here. Hey, that's 16.3 degrees. If I know two angles, can I now find the third? How? 90 plus 16.3, add them together and subtract from 180. Do it in your calculator, see what you get. Then we go 180 minus 106.3. My other angle should be 73.7 degrees, right? Yeah, that is easy. But here's what I'm going to challenge you to do. We're also going to do tangent of R. And suppose I didn't start with tangent of S, suppose I started with tangent of R. Could we find the angle R using trig? So here's what happens. I am no longer at S. I'm not going to start here anymore. And because I'm using pen, it gets a little messy. And so I'm going to switch this, and I'm going to switch this. Because now if I'm at R, and I start at this angle, what's opposite of R now? Opposite of R, across from R, if I go through here, this is now my opposite side. And now this is my adjacent side. They flip-flopped. If I stand at R, and I say tangent of R, the opposite is 48, the adjacent is 14. So it looks like this, 48 over 14. And how do I solve for R? How do I solve for angle R? To solve for an angle, we use inverse. 48 divided by 14, and this is going to tell me what R is. And so we're going to say, well, when I put that in my calculator, R equals, type it in, second tangent, 48 divided by 14, 73.7. 73.7 degrees. Is that the same as what we had over here when we did it by just adding and subtracting? Yeah? What do you know if you add those two together? They add up to, I add these two numbers together, they add up to 90. Example 2, find tangent of J and tangent of K. So if I start like tangent of J, I need to start at J. This is my hypotenuse, always across from the right angle. So I have tangent of J. What's opposite of J? 24. What's adjacent? What's next to it? 32. So tangent of J is opposite over adjacent. My 24 over 32. Solve for J. We go tangent inverse to find that angle measure. And that's going to equal our J. And so J is oops, there it is. 36.9. Are we comfortable typing it in? Are we all getting the same thing I should have asked way back when? Can we get that? Questions? Don't be afraid to ask. 36.9. And it's an angle, so I call it degrees. We label it as degrees. Tangent of K, you tank there. If we're at K, things change now. So now I don't need this dot anymore. I don't use this, and I don't use this. If I'm at K, what's opposite? What's across from it? 32. What's adjacent? 24. So I say opposite over adjacent. And you'll notice with tangent, they just flip-flop. So to find k, we go tangent inverse 32 divided by 24, and that'll give us k. And so k is 53.1. How do I know Dawson's right? If I add these two together, they add up to 90. So this 90 plus my right angle, which is another 90, they add up to 180. How about here? If I say find the value of x, we always start at the angle, but never the 90 degrees. So it's like I might put my little man in here. I start at my angle measure, but never the 90 degrees. This is my hypotenuse. And if I'm standing here, 11 is the side opposite, and this is adjacent. So we have opposite and we have adjacent. So we say tangent, do I know my angle? Yeah, I know my angle, so I say it's 32. It's always tangent of your angle. Sometimes we know it, sometimes we don't. So tangent 32 equals the opposite over the adjacent. So this is always our angle, and these are always opposite side over adjacent side. Here's a trick. If x is down in the denominator, we divide. Down, denominator, we divide. So I'm going to go basically like this, and these two are going to switch positions. So I'm going to have x equals 11 over tangent of 32. Did you see what I did? There's some math behind why I did what I did, but it works, and that's how it always works. X is down in the denominator, so we divide. So we go to our calculator. If I know my angle measure, the only time we use inverse is if we're trying to find an angle. I'm trying to find the side length. So we type in 11 divided by, and now watch, it's not tangent inverse, we just use tangent. Don't push second, just push tangent. And type in 32. 17.6. Questions on this one? This is called trig. This is just the basics of it. So what does x equal? 17.6. So I would say this side length is 17.6 units. We're going to jump to 5. We'll come back to 4 and 6 in a second. How about this one? Where do I always start? At the angle that doesn't have the 90-degree mark. So if I start here, this is my hypotenuse, this is opposite, and this side would be adjacent because it's next to my little man. So I'm going to say tangent of my angle, I know my angle is 61 degrees, equals opposite over adjacent. X is down in the denominator, so we divide. So we have x equals 22 divided by tangent 61. Tangent 61, this is the whole thing. That whole thing switches places with the x. They have to stay together. I look, if I round to this first decimal place, is the next number 5 or higher? Yes, so it rounds up and it's 12.2. So x equals 12.2. Example 4. I still start at my angle, but not the 90-degree one. This is my hypotenuse. I stand here, across from it is opposite, and this one is adjacent. If I have opposite and adjacent, that deals with my tangent. That's your TOA. So I say tangent 70, tangent of my angle, equals opposite over adjacent. Oops, sorry. Tangent of 70 equals your opposite over your adjacent. So if x is up high, we multiply. My x is up high, it's in the top, so I'm going to multiply by 40 here. Those cancel. I multiply by 40 out front. Put it out front, otherwise you'll get something different, depending how you type it in. So we type in 40 times, I just use regular tangent because I already know my angle measure, 109.89. I look here, is the next number 5 or higher? Yes, so it rounds up 109.9. H is a side length. Side lengths are measured in like inches or feet or centimeters. So if this is my side length, this side length's 40. What is 40 inches? This is also in inches. And number 6, example 6. I start at my angle. That's not the 90-degree one. I label what I have. This is my hypotenuse. This group is missing a number. This should be x over here. X is your opposite side of where I'm standing, and this is our adjacent. So I say tangent of my angle where I'm standing is 56 degrees equals the opposite, which is x, over the adjacent, which is 13. X is up high, so I multiply. 13 times tangent 56. .3. This next number is 5 or higher. It's higher than 5, so it rounds it up, and that's 19.3. I didn't tell you units, so we'll just leave it as 19.3. Sweet. You like it? I love Chapter 7. I love this trig stuff.